Okay, I have us at 2 minutes past the hour, so we'll kick things off. So good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're dialing in from today. You're all very welcome to the SoftCo webinar series, where today we're focusing on the key benefits that automating your accounts payable process can deliver to your business. To introduce myself, my name is Adam McDonagh. I'm the Senior Vice President of Sales for SoftCo here in North America, based out of Boston, Massachusetts. And I'm delighted to be joined and to introduce my esteemed colleague, Garret Pearse. Garret is our Senior Vice President of Global Pre-Sales here in SoftCo. And Garret brings over 20 years industry experience working with organizations to automate their accounts payable and procure to pay processes. And he's worked with the likes of PwC, Patagonia, Analog Devices, and Volkswagen, to name just a few. Garret, thank you very much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks, Adam. Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for bringing me along. So looking forward to the session today. Hopefully be able to bring some learnings that I've got on in the past to how best and why you should be automating your AP process. So looking forward to having a chat today.
Yeah, no doubt you will. I'll put the pressure on you early. You'll be able to deliver. Well, great. Thanks for joining us. Glad to have you along. So to set the scene, folks, the webinar itself, we're going to keep it short and sweet. It's going to be no longer than 35 minutes in total. And what we plan to do from an agenda perspective is I'll give you a brief overview to SoftCo, give you some insight into who we are as a company, the solutions that we offer, and equally important, some of the clients that we work with and the benefits they achieve. Garret and I will then have some back and forth conversation in relation to the main benefits that accounts payable automation can provide to your business based on what we've seen our clients experience and the feedback that we get from CFOs and senior finance leaders. And then I'll hand over to Garret at that stage. He will provide you with a very high level overview of our AP solution. So quite a condensed demonstration. Given the time constraints that we have on today's webinar, we won't have a full-fledged demonstration. But after today's session, we will follow up with each of you individually. And if you'd be interested in scheduling a personalized session, we'd be more than happy to set that up for you. There will also be time at the end or throughout today's demonstration for any questions that you may have. And we encourage you to submit them to us directly via the GoToWebinar control panel. So there's a chat or a questions tab. And please submit them to us and we will make time to answer those questions as part of today's session. So to introduce you to SoftCo, we're a global provider of financial automation solutions, and we offer solutions in the area of procure to pay, accounts payable automation, vendor management, and contract compliance solutions as well. Ultimately, what our solutions provide is organizations to manage and control their spend and automate the process of receiving a supplier invoice right through to posting that invoice into an ERP system for payment. As a business, from a compliance point of view, we're both SOC 1 and SOC 2 certified, and we're also ISO 27001 certified as well. On the right-hand side, you'll see a snapshot of some of the European finance systems that we've integrated with. We've at present over 200 active integrations, and that entails some of the major players in the market, so the likes of your Oracle systems, your SAPs, Dynamics, your Infors, your Sages, etc. But we've also integrated with some industry-specific applications and some older and homegrown applications as well. So we're completely ERP agnostic. In terms of the highlights of SoftCo as us as a business, we've 100% project success. All of our solutions are delivered, and that's very rare in today's world. In addition, we have the leading matching engine in the marketplace. Our clients achieve over 75% straight through processing of their invoices. And we'll refer to some of the industry averages as we move through today's session, but that ultimately allows organizations to drive a huge amount of efficiencies throughout their AP process, which leads to a tremendous amount of cost savings as well. As an organization, then, we've over 1 million business users that access our solutions on a daily basis. And on the right-hand side, you'll see a snapshot of some of the customers that we're very fortunate to work with. And we've already mentioned some of them, so the likes of PwC in the financial services industry, Patagonia in the retail apparel space, Someone like Sunny Delight has been a client of ours for nearly 20 years in the food and beverage industry. And then large organizations such as Analog Devices in the manufacturing industry as well. And I can see from today's attendance, we've organizations joining us from all different sectors. So we've a huge and vast experience when it comes to the industry challenges that each of you may be encountering on a daily basis. So jumping right into the improvements that you can expect from AP automation, and some of this might be fairly evident to you, and you might have that in mind when you're coming into today's session. But ultimately, in a nutshell, what AP automation is doing is it's removing and reducing the need for manual non-value added processes across the finance function. What that in turn does then is it drives a huge amount of efficiencies, leading to quicker approval of invoices, increased productivity, but it also gives you 100% control and visibility across the AP process. So you have insight now into things like your accrual status, productivity, both from an AP and business user point of view, but also tracking KPIs as well and the key metrics that you're leveraging when it comes to success of an AP automation solution. The other thing that it does, it will highlight any red flags going through the process, so it ultimately reduces or mitigates the risk of fraud happening to your organization, and we know that's on the rise. And all of that funnels into reduced processing costs, lowering the cost it takes to process a single invoice. Moving that along then, if you look at any third-party research out there, the likes of the Institute of Finance and Management or IOFM, they've conducted analysis of the cost for a single invoice across various different thresholds. So in a manual environment, it's costing a business nearly $16 to process a single invoice. But as you start to introduce levels of automation, obviously the cost per invoice reduces. So if you're getting into a low level of automation, you're down to $9 or $8 to process an invoice. Medium level of automation then is down into kind of the $5 to $4 threshold. But where everyone joining today's session, where you ultimately want to be, is where the cost per invoice is under the $2 mark. And if you then look at the industry averages, which I referred to earlier, Ardent Partners is another third-party research firm, and they've gone out to CFOs and senior finance professionals to understand the impact that AP automation has brought about for their business. And in terms of the averages across the board from an AP solution, most products and solutions are only allowing organizations to achieve 21.3% straight-through process or STP. And that's only driving a low level of automation of the business. You can see the cost there is still quite high. Whereas in SoftCo, when we're allowing organizations to achieve in excess of 75% of an STP rate, that results in a huge cost savings per invoice. So it's over $14 savings on a single invoice. And then when you map that to your individual annual volume, be it 20,000 invoices or up to 250,000 plus, there's considerable cost savings to be had. So the business case stacks up for AP automation across organizations of various different shapes and sizes. Piecing that together then, and how does SoftCo ultimately allow our clients to achieve a high percentage of automation? So at the start of the process, you'll be familiar with things like OCR invoice capture, a very powerful tool in terms of capturing the invoice data and reducing the need to print any invoices off or save them manually on shared network drives and folders. But that, if you like, is only the first piece of the puzzle. There's a huge element of building blocks you need to put on top of OCR capture to really drive a lot of efficiencies and cost savings. So you might be looking at things like a standard AP automation solution where you've got the capability to automatically code invoices and automatically route your invoices through various workflows, ensuring that there's complete segregation of duties and that the people signing off on those invoices have the appropriate permissions and limits in order to do so. Then getting into very complex scenarios in terms of automating 2 or 3 matching of your purchase order invoices. And a lot of solutions out there will offer this, but there comes a point where that the standard matching elements can only do so much. But in SoftCo, we have what we call smart matching, which enables organizations to achieve upwards of 75% STP, which we referenced earlier. And that returns, it ensures a huge amount of cost reductions throughout the AP function itself. There are some other add-on solutions which are intrinsically linked to AP, so organizations may be focusing on a full procure-to-pay solution. We have an e-procurement module which many clients are utilizing, be it for all of their expenditure or even for a portion, maybe the non-inventory, non-trade type of expenditure. and we've things like contract management and vendor portal solutions as well. But to give you a real life snapshot of an organization that is utilizing our AP solution, someone like Analog Devices, who are headquartered here in Massachusetts, in Wilmington, Massachusetts, but they have AP operations globally. They have operations across Europe and across Asia, and quite extensive volume. They're processing over 180,000 invoices. They're achieving over a 70% straight through process using SoftCo AP. So you can see they have 180,000 invoices, but over 130,000 of those are touchless. So the AP now are focusing on invoices that genuinely require their attention, but they're also becoming AP analysts, being able to dive into the system, look at the reports and metrics, identify any bottlenecks or pain points that are still occurring, but more importantly, they now have time to digest those and take appropriate action. And that might be externally with the vendors or internally in the business in terms of the process improvements that Analog Devices are looking to undertake. So Garret, I'd love to bring you into this and pick your brains on a number of kind of the elements that we're seeing as why organizations are opting to automate their AP process. And the first one is we're still seeing a huge influx of organizations that are reliant on manual processes, and that's everything from the receipt of invoice right through to the payment of the invoice. What do you see as kind of the most time-consuming elements?
Yeah, well, I think the one, if there's any benefit to COVID, is it did get rid of the paper, in that organizations were at least receiving their emails as a PDF attachment to an email rather than getting it in the mail and having to process that paper. But what we've seen, ironically, then is organizations that weren't set up for full automation were then just doing a manual process but online, in terms of they were saving the invoice out to a network drive or emailing it around and trying to keep track of it through things like Excel. Or even if they had some elements of automation, they were getting some benefits out of it. They've got maybe a bit of OCR, but then struggling with the matching, or vice versa, that they were getting having to do a lot of the manual matching of the invoices. So the landscape from new customers and prospects I've been speaking to over the last 6 months is very much they're struggling to get efficiencies with it. They put a kind of reactive manual process in place, and they need to get away from that. They need to do away with that manual monitoring of the inbox, saving off of those documents, emailing them around, tracking who they've emailed to. So if they can get away from that in turn immediately starts to give them visibility, reduces the time they're spent with data capture and document handling, and lets them focus on doing things the right way, whether that be matching or doing the approval process or having to manually gather data for the month-end close instead of being able to just run a report and get all your accruals, etc.
Yeah, I think to add to that, one important metric that organizations should be tracking, particularly when they're looking to move away from a manual environment into an automated world, is what are the touch points on a single invoice? So, you know, as you've mentioned, we know COVID has eradicated paper, which is fantastic, but if you still have people monitoring a dedicated AP inbox, having to save the invoice manually on a shared network drive or folder, you know, you have to have someone go into the AP inbox itself, click on the attachment, click file, save as, they're renaming it, putting it into various different folders. You're into 4 or 5 touch points even before the invoice is in front of you, ready to be processed. And I've seen organizations that have been over 80 touch points on a single invoice. So it's one important metric that they should be tracking.
Absolutely.
The other thing then, Garret, I suppose that's intrinsically linked to that is kind of the cost. And obviously, the more manual elements you have associated with the process, the higher the costs are going to be. And one thing I experience on a daily basis with organizations, particularly AP managers that are coming to us and looking to build a business case, is that a lot of organizations still believe that AP automation is cost prohibitive, when in reality, what a senior finance leader or CFO should be focusing on is what is the opportunity cost of not automating? So i.e., what are the risks associated to a business with outdated manual processes? Again, from your perspective and experience, what do you see as kind of being the elements that are driving up the costs across the AP function?
Yeah, I mean, in addition to the manual labor we just described there's things like you have out there the late payment penalties, which some suppliers and some industries are very much prone to, and also missed early discounts that they're constantly struggling to get their invoices ready to pay on time, let alone be able to have the choice of taking advantage of early payment discounts, which can be significant savings. And then just having general control. Very often when you're in a manual environment, you're in a reactive environment. You're having to, as soon as an invoice is ready to pay, you're paying it because you just want to get that out of the way and move on to the next set of invoices, which may be late as well. Whereas if you're in a controlled, automated environment, your invoices are arriving in a ready to pay state, but you've got full visibility of what's out there. You're able to pay them when you need to, and take the benefits that can have on your working capital. You're able to make a decision whether you want to pay it early and take the discount, or you want to take full advantage of your payment terms. And therefore, all of those things intrinsically feed into reducing your processing costs, in addition to taking a lot of the manual labor out of it. And fundamentally, then you're making better decisions because your financial statements are much more reflective of what the real case is, as opposed to having blind spots or delayed financial reporting at month end or things like that.
Yeah, and I think that's vitally important because, if we look at the impact that COVID and the pandemic has had on businesses, we know there's limitations and strains in relation to supply chains. We know that has an impact in terms of the cash flow of the business. And I don't know, Garret, but from a lot of the demonstrations and meetings that I'm having today, there seems to be more of an element of treasury being involved with them. And the main goal in that is to improve the overall working capital of the business. So being able to mitigate the risk of late payment penalties, take advantage of those discounts. And a lot of people are referring to actually transforming the AP department into what's often unfairly seen as a back office admin function now to the forefront of the business, when they're moving the AP into kind of a profit center where they're achieving those discounts, leveraging cost savings of business and driving additional revenue.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's a key part of finance department's objectives. And one other thing, actually, I might add, just based on a few conversations I've had with CFOs in recent months, is the importance of keeping your suppliers happy in these times where supply chain is under a lot of pressure due to delivery constraints and cost constraints. That if you're not paying your suppliers on time, they're now in the position where they'll give preference to their customers who are paying them on time. So you really want to make sure that from an ongoing supplier relationship point of view, maintaining your deliveries, your supply chain, that you're in a position to always be able to pay them when you need to pay them.
Absolutely. The third point then, Garret, is just the overall shift that we've seen over the past 2 years. And don't want to get into that as a conversation, but we've had a finance team historically that have never really worked from home. They've always been in the office, and there is benefits to working from home, but obviously remote working does add complexity to the AP process, particularly when the invoices do need approval. You can no longer walk around to someone's desk or sit on them to get an answer over an invoice. Do you see that as an issue at the moment? And being in a manual process where organizations are still reliant on some element of paper, does that cause issues in terms of retaining talent and attracting new talent into the organization?
Oh, very much so. I mean, we've all heard talks of the great resignation. So even from a staffing point of view, there's been challenges with companies keeping key people in their finance teams, their AP processors, etc. So they need to provide the tools for those people to work where they want to work in a way that suits them. And either the hybrid workplace or the work from home environment is a key part of, first of all, retaining your existing employees, your skilled, experienced existing employees, giving them the tools to work in an efficient way, but also in a rewarding and satisfactory way, that they're focusing on the value add activities rather than the mundane data entry or manual processing activities. So it really is a critical part of any solution with regards to keeping people. And also you'll see it in job ads. I think, Adam, you were in on the conversation we had with the CFO in New Hampshire last month, where it was part of their advertising job description was the fact that they were using their AP users were now using a state-of-the-art AP automation system, as opposed to coming into an environment in a company where you're doing a lot of the old mundane manual processing. It was much more attractive to helping them get staff in and retain the staff, while at the same time reducing the reliance on some of those manual activities as well. So supporting hybrid it's a critical part of any AP solution architecture.
Yeah, and I think retaining staff is so key. I mean, you've got an AP function today, and those people understand the nuances to your AP process. They get the problematic vendors and suppliers. They know the invoices that are going to cause headaches. They even know the external users when the invoice leaves the AP department that are going to cause delays, and they're going to have to continually chase and monitor. I actually met a CFO recently in Illinois in the manufacturing industry who, during the pandemic, they didn't go to any remote working model. They were all in the office every day, and they tried to do things like bring in a gym, for example. They tried to bring in chefs, and actually what ended up happening was, now with the offering of remote working, virtually all of the AP staff left. So he was left with diminishing resources in the AP function itself. He'd lost all the key knowledge of the AP function. So they're actually now looking at AP automation in order to facilitate remote working and start to attract people into the business that they can keep and retain. So I think it's an important thing to consider. And the other thing just on headcount is obviously in relation to kind of growth as well. So if we look at, everyone dialing into today's webinar has ambition, companies have ambition to grow and scale, and that might be, introducing new product lines, expanding into different regions or different markets. We've seen a lot of organizations recently that have a growth strategy of growing via acquisition. All exciting time for the business, but it places strains on the AP department because all of those aspects increase the invoice workload and volume for the AP team as well. Are you seeing many organizations that are, I suppose, challenged, for want of a better word, Garret, as they continue to grow?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you need to be able to adding additional staff to address a growing volume is not a sustainable way of going. First of all, when you have the challenges of getting staff, and second of all, just your marginal benefits of each employee added, you're not going to get the same overall productivity or cost effectiveness. So you need something that's going to sustain you, allow you to either linearly or even better get productivity improvements, that as you increase, that your cost of processing an invoice should actually be going, per invoice should be going down rather than going up. So that's a critical part. And you got to support then consistency. If you're an acquisitive company, you want to be able to get your best practice automation implemented in any newly acquired companies, be able to do that efficiently, get buy-in from their users there, and get consistency across the organization from a business process point of view. So those factors really do play an important part of the AP automation supporting company growth, that it's easy to onboard the accounts payable elements of any new acquisitions or to deal with increased volume. Very, very important indeed.
Great. Well, I know we're coming up on time, Garret, and given the constraints we do have, I might hand over to you at this stage, let you bring people through our AP solution, and then we can circle back for any questions.
Yeah, great. I mean, what I just wanted to do today from a product point of view was really just point out a few highlights. I think it's an abridged format, these webinars, but we'd be delighted to schedule separate sessions with anybody attending today's session and walk them through the SoftCo solution, but more importantly, the SoftCo solution in relation to their particular challenges. Everybody has certain variations on a theme of how AP challenges affect their organization, either driven by their industry or their organization structure, etc. So it's always better to show stuff in the context of their particular challenges. But just, I'll give a quick view of the typical automated process that we support, and how invoices can flow as efficiently as possible through those through the SoftCo 10 solution. So I think you've just made me a presenter there. So I've
made you presenter, so you can take over.
Okay, great. So if you can see how it works, process flow, moving from the left to the right. Fundamentally, we can take invoices in whatever format they arrive in your organization. You may still get paper, they can be scanned and sent to an email inbox. We can pick inbound emails up from an inbox. We can take data feeds. from XML, EDI, we have a portal. So whatever shape or format that your invoices are arriving in, our goal is to get them through a common process. For those PDF or paper invoices, we provide an OCR process which will extract the data automatically, or we can completely we can do the outsource where we'll actually monitor post office boxes for you and pick up your mail and scan them in and do all of that. So really just looking to reduce the amount of time spent doing the data keying of what's on the invoice, if you like. So that data capture step is let's get the data from the invoice and then figure out what we can do with it. So once we've got the data via optical character recognition, for example, we then bring it into the SoftCo 10 smart matching engine. And that's a pretty impressive bit of technology there. It's using AI methods to take the invoice data, which, as I'm sure you all know, can sometimes be a very nice, clean representation of what you've ordered, or in some cases be a very vague representation of what you've ordered. So it's got to figure out, based off of what's on the invoice, what purchase order or purchase orders does this invoice relate to, what particular lines on the purchase order are we being invoiced for based on the data from this invoice. So there's a lot of clever work to take the invoice data, find the purchase order and the receiving data that you'll have gathered typically through your ERP, and try and match it as best as possible. So in that case there, if we're able to identify the purchase order lines and that the invoice relates to, and the price is right and the goods have been received, the system will be able to automatically match the invoice to the purchase order, generate all the appropriate postings, and interface that directly into your ERP with no intervention. So when Adam was talking about analog devices and their 70%, even though their volumes are pretty significant, I think it was 250,000 invoices, from an AP point of view, they're really only having to look at about 60,000, 70,000 invoices per year, because the rest of them are flowing through. The other 150,000 odd invoices are automatically flowing through the matching engine and being processed automatically without the need for human intervention. And obviously, there are going to be cases where there is a price issue or a receiving issue. So another key process within the system is get those invoices out in front of people who can do something, whether it's escalate an invoice to your receiving team if the goods haven't been received, or to your procurement team if the price is wrong, but in a linear, controlled, automated fashion, get it out to the people who can make the decisions to get the invoice processed appropriately, or even in some cases rejected appropriately. In some cases you might realize that an invoice hasn't provided the data you need. Some of our customers, for example, work off a no PO, no pay policy, that if an invoice comes in and it should quote a PO and it doesn't, it'll just get sent straight back to the vendor and make it their problem to submit it in with the proper data. And so again, getting all that done through a proper structured process. And then you will have non-purchase order invoices, whether it be for your utilities, your maintenance, your ongoing rental agreements and things like that. So there's a lot of things we can do where you have predictability, such as utility bills or rental bills. We can help with the automation of those by defining what we call payment plans and matching invoices against that. Or where you still need to get an invoice coded and approved, we can help with the automated coding, or at least support your AP team with assistive coding, what we call smart coding, where it will code the invoice according to similar invoices that have been received and processed in the system previously. And just to call out one example there, Patagonia have been using that over the last few months, and they've a lot of diverse locations, and they found that even with some of their new staff, that type of technology has been key to getting them up to speed. It's giving them suggested coding for invoices that they personally might not have seen before. So that's helping getting them up and running within the system and the process. So those are going back to the point we made about hybrid working and keeping staff, etc. Those are the little things that are so essential nowadays to supporting your staff in their tasks and activities. But fundamentally, we're looking to get the invoice in and either auto-matched or resolved and coded and approved and back out the other side as quickly as possible. So with the bit of time I have remaining, as I said, be delighted to do this in a more detailed session. I'm just going to log in as a few different users and give you a sense of what the different business users will see, and give you a couple of little highlights of what the system is doing. So first of all, if I log in as Emma, who's a member of the AP team, first of all, you can see she's got full visibility of what's in progress in terms of number of invoices that are active, where they are in the different data steps, what's awaiting just release from the OCR, what's awaiting matching, what's with the AP team, what's with the business. So you always know and are in full control as to where items are with the business. And you can see things like invoices by due date, invoices with discount opportunities. So you're immediately aware of where things need to be escalated or where things need to be processed efficiently to take advantage, for example, of those discounted days. From a capture point of view, just to give you a sense of how the OCR process works, if I just click into one of the OCR queues here, you can see these are invoices that have come in, multiple lines. The system is automatically picking up all this data. So these greens are all data fields that the OCR has captured automatically, both at the header and also at the line item. You can see this particular invoice has, I think, lots of lines and lots of lines throughout the invoice, and it's able to pick all that data up automatically. And with that data, it then is able to move the invoice through into the matching process. And it's there that the artificial intelligence of the matching really comes into play. So once you have your data captured and it comes into the AP automation, it's trying to drive the outcomes to as positive an outcome as is practical, and also get it presented to the people who need to intervene if they do need to intervene. So if I just take a couple of quick examples here. When Emma logged in, she's got a few favorite work queues presented to her. First of all, as she can see, invoices that have come in today that are already ready for release, already just waiting to the next interfacing and posting into the finance system. So you can see here, she's got invoices, 3 invoices from Dell, 1 from Industrial Gears, and 1 from Knowledge Boost. And they've all matched, but you'll notice they've got different levels of confidence matching. So this is going back to what I mentioned earlier on with regards to very often what's presented on the invoice will not be a perfect match to what was on the order, but the system is still able to figure out what you're being billed for versus what you'd actually ordered, and make a decision then, is the bill amount correct? I'll just drop into a couple of those. So this one matched at 100%. There's my invoice. If I click onto my matching screen, what that shows me on the left-hand side is the data that the OCR process picked up from the line items. On the right-hand side is the purchase order data to which it has matched. And then in the middle, it tells me how it managed to match it. So I can hover over, for example, the matching details on row 1, and it was a full, perfect alignment. The product code on the invoice squared up with what was on the order, the quantity, the unit price, the amount. So that's a nice, clean, 100% match. And that will often be the case, particularly in your manufacturing environments or your retail environments, where there's good discipline between what you're putting on your order and what the supplier in turn is quoting on your invoice. In reality, though, there's often another set of invoices, as you can see, for example, this 75% invoice, where 75% confidence match invoice, where there's a little bit of discrepancy between what was on the invoice and what was on the order. And in the manual world, that typically is going to involve a bit of, call it ticking and flicking, where you're working your way down the invoice, visually comparing it to what's on the purchase order to try and figure out what each line in the invoice relates to versus what's on the order. Whereas with the SoftCo matching engine, it's able to take, even where there is that discrepancy, so you can see here, the order number was obviously correct, quantity and unit price and amount were in alignment, even though the product code was different, it was still able to use this information to figure out which line on the invoice related to which line on the purchase order. So that's that invoice at that 75%, that's a choice you can make, whether you want to flow straight through, or you might want to just cast an eye over it like I'm doing now before you release it across into the finance system. And furthermore, you then get into more challenging matches, particularly in the service space, where we have an invoice here just for $1,500, no product code or anything like that. And in turn, what the matching engine has been able to do is take that 1,500 and figure out that actually, while there might not be, if we take a little peek at what the purchase order looks like, you can see that There's nothing on the purchase order. There's a line for 500, a line for 1,000, and a line for 1,200. There's no one line on the purchase order for 1,500. The purchase order itself isn't for 1,500. So how has it been able to match that? So what it's literally done is tried different combinations of the purchase order, and you can see it's telling me that there. It's got 1,500 and it's matched it to these two purchase order lines automatically. And it has flagged it that it's a slightly lower confidence. So again, it's making me aware of that. But I'm now in control. It's done the heavy lifting, if you like, and I'm now in a position where I can see the coding of it and I can say, yeah, I'm happy to release that across into the finance system. There's nothing more for me to do. So those are some of the very positive outcomes you can get with matching. And as we said, we've got customers consistently in the 70s, 80% of straight through matching, particularly in your nice, well-managed, structured environments. There will still be invoices that come in needing action. So if I look at, for example, invoices that have come in that are out with the business user, you'll see another example of the automation outcome. So one common complaint of AP departments is they get invoices in that haven't been receipted, and they have to go put them to the side and go chase the people out in the business for the receipting. Whereas here we can see the system is doing that automatically. These invoices have come in from Dell, they haven't been receipted, and they've instead been automatically assigned out to business users to get them to do the receipting. Or if you've got two-way match invoices for services, we've reached out to the people who ordered those services to get them to confirm that they're happy to pay the invoice. Furthermore, on the non-PO side, using its rules engine, it's able to say, well, I've got a Verizon invoice here for the Boston office. That always goes to Aaron and needs to be approved. And it's always coded. If I click in, I can see that it's out with Aaron, but it's already got its coding done because the system knew how to code it automatically. So again, this Verizon invoice came through OCR. The rules engine picked up that it needed to go to Aaron and needed to be coded in a particular way, and that's gone out, ready, just awaiting Aaron's approval without any additional manual effort required by the AP team. So there's a whole range of automations that the system is able to provide to support these types of activity. Just to give you a very brief view of the types of things that your users on the other end of these invoices will see. So for example, if I go across into my email inbox, just to take that email for Verizon, that was automatically routed to Aaron. This is what Aaron will see out in the business, is an invoice. The invoice is automatically attached to his email. We give him a summary of the key information about that email with the full coding breakdown below. And he's got a very simple choice. He can approve or reject. We give him all of the information in the email that he can make an informed but valid decision. In this case, if he just clicks the approve, that will approve the invoice and push it on to the next step. If I do a refresh, you can see that that's now moved on to the next step, and that will get processed across into the ERP automatically. So we'd be delighted to talk you through how your particular use cases would map into all of this automation and routing logic that we're showing you here. On the back of that, having a system like SoftCo 10 is then going to support you in terms of monitoring your KPI, your key KPIs. So just logging in as a different user, Sharon, who's got access to the analytics module, she's interested in making sure that the company is compliant with keeping spend under control. That most of the invoices, most of the spend value should be against purchase order related invoices. She can see very clearly how the organization is doing month on month with regard to that. She can see our invoices being paid on time. Are they being paid late? If they're being paid late, what suppliers are they being paid with? Is there a particular problem there? Equally, if there were invoices being paid early, she might be interested in that because she might want to make sure we're taking advantage of payment discounts, etc. But all of this information is giving her very detailed but very powerful information to make better decisions and make better process improvements within her organization as a whole that will support keeping the costs down, keeping the efficiencies right, etc. So that's a whistle-stop tour of the SoftCo 10 system. I hope it made sense and I didn't go too quickly. And even if I did go too quickly, as I said, we'd love to come and do a more considered, slow version in a one-on-one session with you and talk about your particular current state of play and where you would like to get to with regards to AP automation. So thank you for sitting through that and for your attention in that. If you have any questions, we're going to be around for a few more minutes. To take those questions, you can submit them through the little question tab on the webinar control, and we'll see them there if you've got anything you'd like to ask at this point. Or as I said, we're happy to do a follow-up call with you. So Adam, I'll hand back to you to summarize.
Yeah, great. Thanks for an excellent demo, Garret. Really appreciate it. So just, I'm conscious of time, just to quickly summarize some of the benefits. You can see here, SoftCo AP delivers efficiencies to organization in relation to auto match or straight through processing capabilities. PwC then are reducing their invoice processing time. Other organizations are reducing overall approval time associated with their invoices when they leave the AP department. Primark, as an example, focus on growth, and obviously that growth led to increased invoice volume, so not needing to hire additional headcount and being able to remain with the same number of staff, processing quite a high volume of invoices. And then someone like Goodbaby that's experiencing month-end close reduction, which is always a stressful and anxious time for the AP department in particular. We've mentioned working with organizations across various different industry sectors. We've also mentioned working with organizations of different sizes. So Goodbaby, as an example, 25,000 invoices a year. Someone like Grafton Group is processing 350,000 invoices, and Primark then over 600,000 invoices. And I think our largest client is a couple of million invoices. So the system is scalable. It's multi-entity, multi-currency for those that have international processes. But also, as we've mentioned, the business case is there for your volumes, irrespective of the size of company that you are. So I think just to wrap up, Garret, there is a few questions that have come in for us. So
okay,
load them up here. There's one in relation to overall implementation time frame. So what's kind of the, and I know it's the answer is as long as a piece of string, but what's the overall timeline to implement a SoftCo AP solution?
Yeah, I mean, it obviously does vary. There's a number of factors that feed into it in terms of current environment, availability of the AP team, and resources on the customer side to engage with us to get it implemented. I think if I'm asked, I typically give a 10 to 16 week kind of ballpark estimate in terms of elapsed time with the project. I said that can vary, but what I think we've achieved in the last few years with SoftCo has been able to support our customers who are fully ready to be able to get that implementation done within the 10 to 12 week timeline. Or still work with customers who maybe particular challenges on their side to do it over a longer period.
Yeah, and I think it's flexible. You know, we need to be conscious that AP, we're coming into summer now, there's going to be vacation and PTO that we need to be aware of. Things like month end doesn't stop. Unfortunately, there's still the ongoing business obligations as well. So we can be flexible in terms of the project phasing. Another question, Garret, in relation to our system capabilities. So does your system do any payment processing, or is it strictly a document management on the front end?
Well, right out of the box, we bring invoices to a ready to pay status within what I've shown you today, but we do have partners on the payment side as well that if you wanted to help with the payment transaction as well, we can provide you with help through our partners with that as well. So our focus very much today was on the getting the invoice to the point where you're able to make that decision. A lot of our customers will have existing payment platforms or part of their ERP will manage the payment, so we're just getting them ready to pay, but we do have some customers that we've been able to get assistance with the payment process as well.
Yeah, we can introduce the partners. The other thing, just in relation to document management capabilities, you know, there are systems out there that are really truly just document management, where it's just get the invoice in and archive it, or maybe there's an element of some element of approval workflows. I think with SoftCo you get more than just document management. Yes, there's an extensive archive there to retrieve your invoices and pull up an audit and history trail, but there's so much more in terms of the PO matching capabilities, the exception handling. Garret talked around the auto coding, auto routing of your non-PO invoices as well. So there is a huge amount of efficiencies that you can gain, an extensive AP functionality that is more so than just a typical document management system. Other questions then, just relating to kind of overall commercials in terms of number of users or restrictions on those. There's no restrictions on users. It's an unlimited user license model, so it's you can have as many users as you wish logging into SoftCo. As Garret showed, some users don't even need to log into the application itself. They can approve everything via their email or mobile or tablet device. So rest assured, there's no limitation or cost to individual users. Okay, I think that's it. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. We've got more questions coming in. Do we have any construction industry clients, Garret?
Yeah, we have a number of customers in different various aspects of the construction industry. So yeah, we'd be happy to talk to them. Obviously, the likes of Grafton that we've talked about, their elements work particularly with the construction industry. Just looking at the ones we referenced today, but we do have other clients who are working in the construction industry as well with some of the and dealing with the challenges that can bring in terms of the ordering, the matching, the subcontractor handling, all of that kind of stuff can bring its own challenges. So we'd be happy to talk about what we've been able to do with customers in those sectors as well.
Yeah, and walk you through relevant case studies as well. Okay, I think that's, oh, hang on, there's more, sorry, excuse me. Job costing was the challenge that particular person was thinking of, Garret. So obviously being able to allocate the cost particular jobs that an organization are undertaking.
Okay, yeah, I think there's the devil with those is in the detail, and as you know, we're in a couple of conversations with customers at the moment around how we can help them with that. So I think we'd be happy to probably dig into the detail of that particular questioner's challenges as to how we can help them with that.
Yeah, organizations handle it slightly differently from business to business, so we can certainly get into the detail, get in under the hood and understand what you're trying to do there. Okay, so we'll hang on a moment for any additional questions that might come through. I can see there is some. Just as Garret mentioned, we will follow up with everyone individually after today's webinar. Really do appreciate you dialing in and sticking with us. And we'd love to set up a more personalized call, get to know your AP process in more detail, understand the challenges that you're actually facing today, and then being able to map that to the SoftCo solution and provide you with a personalized demonstration. So I think that's it, Garret. I don't see any more questions come in. So thanks, Garret, for joining us. Do appreciate your time and look forward to following up with everyone individually.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, for your time and attention today.
Thanks, folks. Take care. Have a great rest of your week.
Bye now.